Episode 7 of Transfer Talk, 12th of July. This is the weekly roundup of all the major transfer stories that have been talked about in the press and online related to Leeds United. So before anyone jumps into the comments and says, can we stop talking about Suzuki and Charles? No, we can't, because these are still active stories, and until they're not, that's the entire point of this program, I suppose. We'll keep talking about them. There is some clarity on some stories. There's some more information on a few others. There's some advancement. There's a new one as well that is worth getting stuck into. Also, some updates. Danilo Doki, we said we would update you on all of the links with Leeds. He's been linked with Leeds since the back end of February. He is off to Lazio, so that one's off the table. It was off the table probably a month ago. It's definitely off the table now. So he's done and dusted. Right-footed centre-back. Not exactly what Leeds are looking for right now. It's been a weird week. We've seen two goalkeepers exit the club. Karl Darlow off to that lot. And then obviously Illan Meslier signed for Arsenal. Two very interesting series of quotes that have come out around them. The Karl Darlow one doesn't necessarily track perfectly for me. Leeds couldn't guarantee him first choice football. So he chose a move that would guarantee him second choice at a club. Doesn't make a huge amount of sense to me, but I'm not the one looking at the paycheck at the end of the day. So that's happened, which means Leeds United will absolutely now need to accelerate their movements to try and get a goalkeeper in. Although Alex Cairns has signed a new deal. So we've got two goalkeepers still currently at the club. Lucas Perri and Alex Cairns. But that could change. And that could change really quickly. So there is some goalkeeping stuff to get into. That line about Karl Darlow will come back towards the end of the video when we do get to talk about Zion Suzuki a little bit, because there's a couple of bits starting to line up there that are worth talking about. All these stories, Shay Charles, Tarik Muharemovic, and Zion Suzuki, as well as Lucas Perri. There are some threads at the very minimum need a little bit of pulling at to try and get into the more factual detail on this and where we sit with it right now. Massive thanks to Graham Smyth for during the week for clarifying some transfer stories. And myself and Andrea Russo are talking about the Mandela Keita one. No truth in that. Not a player on Leeds shortlist right now. Leeds aren't looking at it. I very much appreciate Graham answering the tweet and giving us the clarification on that. So thank you very much to Graham Smyth. So the first one we will talk about today and get through is Shea Charles and where we are with this one right now. We'll give you the background immediately as per usual. 22 years of age, 6'2", right-footed, central defensive midfielder, currently at Southampton. Contract runs until 2027. And importantly in this deal, which has been a bit of a sticking point, Man City holds a 15% sell-on clause in him. So man, they want what they want plus that 15%. So Southampton don't lose out on what they want for the player. This is the longest running active transfer story of the summer so far. Not to say that it won't be the shortest one come the end of the window, depending on what happens over the next 2 months. 2 bids rejected. Third bid went in last weekend. It was expected to be rejected. That was the language we heard. Nothing to confirm that that bid has actually been rejected. That was a £23 million plus add-ons bid. Southampton, as we know, won 30 million. The Mail have been the closest source to this one over the course of the last few weeks. Simon Jones, the one leading the race on that. As it stands right now, we know that there were talks. Fulham and Crystal Palace are now also in the mix, although fundamentally in this is an interesting point. Both clubs are not believed to have actually made a formal offer, at least right now, of the time of recording, in the bottom corner of the screen. Things can change quick in a transfer window. So right now, Leeds still seem to be the only one with a concrete move for Shea Charles, despite the other noise around interest in him. Right now, where are we with as of right now? Well, the Mail said that talks took place between Leeds United and Southampton on Friday. Those talks were described as very positive, and both clubs were said to be trying to push through a move for the player. So they're both actively trying to meet somewhere in the middle to try and get this deal done. Leeds were told, or at least the Mail have reported, that Leeds were told that they would find out this weekend if their pursuit of Shea Charles was a success. You feel that that statement means that Leeds have got their last sets of offers in and they're likely to walk away at this moment in time if they don't get the deal done. So we've got the clearest timeline on this that we've had over the last month on the story right now of where we're going with this. Now, Graham Smyth has also been talking about this on the Inside Ellen Road podcast, and he said that Leeds' patience on this one is interesting because Leeds feel they can get a deal done and are working to get the player in. Leeds see him as a very, very good player, but he has a valuation and they won't go beyond that. So that's another important factor in this as well. Leeds feel they can get a deal done, and Leeds now appear be the only club seriously interested in a move for Shea Charles. There are some ITKs, the more credible ITKs or the in the nose that are out there who believe that not only is this deal close, but it's pretty much done and it could be announced in the next day or two. We'll have to wait and see on that. Some of them are very accurate from last summer, so that should be pointed out. And they say this is close to getting done. The language right now seems to be positive. We haven't had the shot down or rejected comments just yet. So we could see over the next day or two where this one goes and if Leeds can get across the line. He's clearly a player they want. There's clearly a player that the data side of Leeds recruitment have looked at and went, yeah, he can do a job for us. And he's clearly a player Daniel Farke wants if Leeds are pursuing this one as long as they have. So we will see where it goes, but that's the latest update as of the time of recording of Shea Charles. And I'm going to keep saying that because things change way too quickly at this time of the year. Players are due back tomorrow as well, so things will pick up pace. Let's talk about Tarik Muharemovic. I'm probably not pronouncing his name right, and somebody will correct me in the comments, and I always appreciate the proper phonetic pronunciation of a name, but Tarik Muharemovic, centre-back, 23 years of age, 6'4" in height, left-footed, 17 caps for Bosnia and Herzegovina national side. The story on this one so far. So yesterday, Saturday evening, while everyone was getting prepped for the quarterfinals of the World Cup, Fabrizio Romano broke an exclusive saying that Leeds United had joined the race to sign Tarik Muharemovic. Interesting. He also labelled two other clubs as being involved in this. Player's contract runs until 2031, so 4 years left on that deal, so there's plenty of time to run on it. He joined Juventus back in 2021 before then moving on loan to Sassuolo in 2024. That move was then made permanent in 2025. Last season, he scored 2 goals and 2 assists from a central defensive position. He was sent off in the World Cup against Switzerland. That shouldn't be a indictment of his disciplinary record because it's not that bad when we get into that in a few minutes' time. His market value is £22 million, although within 24 hours of this story coming out, that market value has shot up significantly, and there might be a very good reason for that, and that's one of the threads we're going to pull at in a few minutes' time. As I say, Fabrizio Romano broke the exclusive on Saturday. He labelled Leeds, Bournemouth and Sunderland as being the interested parties in him or in the race to try and get his signature. Crucial detail on this one, and a potential stumbling block for everybody involved in this: Juventus hold a 50% sell-on clause in the player, which has been widely reported at this moment in time. And looking into this and trying to find the detail, I know there's co-ownership situations in Spain and Italy. I'm not sure what they are like right now, and I won't pretend to know the inner workings of that or the details on it. But one of the lines I've seen from the Italian media is that Juventus will have to make a decision on this as well, because they hold 50% and will make 50% of the profit on the player's sale. Now, it says they have to green light the deal. I'm not sure why they'd have to green light the deal and not just Sassuolo make a decision on how much money they bring in and how much money they give back to Juve, or if there's a sell-on or return clause or anything else like that in this. So it's a bit clear as mud when it comes to that situation. So again, I won't claim to know exactly how that one works, but that's apparently seen as one of the major sticking points in this. It didn't take Graham Smyth long on the YEP to retweet Fabrizio Romano's tweet, basically saying there's more to this. And he said the following: Leeds United interest, but it's gone no further than that yet. He's said to be aerially dominant and good on the ball, both of which would be helpful in a post-stroke world. Won't be an easy get, given what those others can offer next season. The key line I've taken out of that is yes. Do I think Graham Smith's pouring cold water on it? No, not necessarily. And again, I'll tell you that in a second where my theory is on that, and it's only a theory. So where are we now with this? What's the latest on the situation? There was some speculation over the last couple of hours that an agent is maybe driving this to try and increase the value of the player, get more money for his client, that they're the one that's giving the information to Fabrizio Romano to try and increase the valuation of the player, which is likely. So his agents then, he's represented by an agency that are called Future Ball, who have got a track record in pushing their clients into the public sphere in order to try and drive up fees and inflate asking prices, which is genuinely for Leeds not a major factor considering how Leeds do their business over a course of a transfer window. Romano getting the scoop on this does indicate that yes, he's gotten the information from either Sassuolo, Juventus, or the agent directly. That's where he's tended to get his information from. But that doesn't mean it's wrong, and that doesn't mean Leeds aren't involved in this. The fact that if you look at the two statements here, Romano's saying that Leeds United have entered the race. Not that they've got him, not that they put a bid in, but they've entered the race to get him. And then Graham saying interested, but it hasn't gone any further than that just yet. And there's not a massive stretch between those two statements. So does indicate that maybe there's a level of interest. You look at the basics on this, left-footed centre-back, good young age, plenty of time ahead of him, has a high ceiling, very highly rated. Likely if you had to sell him in the future, you'd make your money back on him, if not more, if it all goes well, assuming it does. But Leeds won't get involved in a bidding war. We know that. And Leeds also won't get involved in any games that involve inflated prices for players. Again, we know that as well. There isn't a huge amount of money in Italy. So if they want a high fee for him, and the same when we get to Suzuki, they're not getting that from clubs within Italy. It'll have to come from likely Spain, a couple of clubs in Spain, or in England, in the Premier League, or the Saudi Pro League, being the other option of this. And again, as I say, his contract runs till 2031, which is a long contract. So the details on this, the player versus the player. Pascal Strokes left. Pascal Strokes' stats last season versus Muharemovic side by side. But he played 32 games last season. They were all starts in the Serie A. 2 goals, 2 assists. His passing accuracy, 86%. Strokes was 88%. In his own half, Muharemovic's passing accuracy was 93%, which is good. Pascal Strokes, 94%. And in the opposition half, 71% for Muharemovic, 79% for Pascal Strokes. So not a huge gap between the two of them when it comes to their ball playing ability. There's a slight age gap. Obviously, Muharemovic will be younger than Pascal Strokes now, although I still think Pascal Strokes 21 in my head. I don't know why, but I always think he's younger than he is. And in terms of defending, this is where it gets interesting. On ground duels, Muharemovic won 64% of his ground duels last season. Stroke won 55% in the Premier League. Aerial duels wise, also 64% for Muharemovic, 56% for Pascal Stroke. So from a defensive perspective, slightly better numbers. However, you do have to take into consideration the quality of the opposition, the quality of the league, standard, all of that as well, and also where the teams are playing in their respective leagues. He got 7 yellow cards last year, no red cards, so decent disciplinary record. Pascal Stroke, 5 yellows. So yeah, plenty there. You wouldn't mind an experienced backup either, would you? John Stones, maybe. You can dream. You can dream. But that's where we are with it right now. It's definitely one to keep an eye on. I think there are some threads that need pulling on it a little bit, and we can get into the weeds on that a bit more for those who like to get into the weeds on it. But yeah, it's an interesting one. It's the first name that hasn't been linked from the usual aggregated or third-party sources for months before nothing happens. It is coming out directly from a Romano. Graham hasn't said that there's nothing in it. So right now, there's something in it. We'll see if it advances any further. Let's have a quick chat about Zion Suzuki. And thanks to Andrea Russo, who's been really close to this one in Italy and getting us the detail from the local Parma journalists on this. Worth also pointing out as well, Andrea has reached out to some of the journalists involved in this as well to try and get some detail. So where are we? Again, Suzuki, 23, 6'3", right-footed, Japanese goalkeeper currently at Parma. Definitely the most roller coaster week we've had in this rumor or this link. And there's a grey area between the two of those. Again, we'll get to that in a couple of seconds when we dig into it. We've had DiMarzio this week confirm that Leeds United are interested in the goalkeeper. La Stampa report a £25 million bid that's either in some process of being talked about or in its final stages or maybe not. And then you've got some very less credible journalists saying that the goalkeeper rejected Leeds United's offer. But the same journalists also said he had accepted Leeds United's offer a couple of weeks back. And you feel like they're looking for a tap in on this. And when they didn't get it, have reversed the story and will likely reverse it again should he end up at Leeds. And it is a big should. Graham Smyth or the local media haven't gotten involved in this one. Really, Graham said that it was an aspirational move, and it is. And Leeds are trying to make aspirational moves, which is good. They might not get them, but at least these are trying to get, those stretch targets. And you may lose out on them. But if you want the club to progress quickly, you want to get those players and at least be in the room and give yourself a chance of trying to pitch for the players. The interesting part about this is they haven't gotten into it in any depth in the UK or in England. And I'm not sure if that's because there's not an awful lot to talk about, but they haven't shot it down either. The other side to this could be maybe they're being asked to not get involved in this or not talk about it publicly just yet. We'll give you an early scoop on this, but hold fire for right now because we don't want anyone else coming in and gazumping the move. And maybe they're trying to maintain those relationships with their sources that they've got right now. The Italian sources this week in Parma maintain that the situation on this one coming into the weekend is still very fluid. Parma have signed a brand new goalkeeper now, so at the very least, from a logistical perspective, Suzuki could move, assuming Parma get the valuation that they wanted him. Aston Villa are still being labelled locally as the most likely club to get him, but their entire move on Zion Suzuki hinges on whether Emi Martinez moves to Juve or not, and they've had talks this week. If Martinez doesn't go to Juve and stays at Villa, Villa don't get involved in this at all. Crystal Palace have been mentioned. If they don't put a bid in or try and negotiate, then Leeds might have a straight run through. The sticky part on this is that the local journalists have said the goalkeeper wants European football next season. Leeds can't offer him that, at least not in the short term. So there is a need to sell the longer term project to him. And again, like we've said all summer, show the aspiration of the club to try and make sure he can at least see it in a year or two's time. And that would be interested. Parma-based journalists Bernardini have gotten involved in this. Gazzetta della Parma were involved in this, and they're clear about where the goalkeeper's immediate future ideally lies. That will depend on who gets involved in it. So we're still at the point with this story that it's irons in the fire and dominoes falling situation. If Villa's dominoes start to fall, then maybe this goes away. You also, again, some of the silence on this from the UK media could be down to the fact that there could very easily be other goalkeeper irons in the fire. Leeds could be very much having a look at others. And again, if you look at Muharemovic, could be a goalkeeper or a name we haven't heard yet, and that's very likely when it comes to Leeds United. And then Lucas Perri and Carl Darlow's situation in this are also a factor. And there's some interesting lines there that start to bring all this maybe together to form a circle, or maybe it's a pentagon and we're miles off the mark, but we'll talk about that. The Lucas Perry situation has been interesting towards the end of the week. Torino want him. That's been confirmed by Gianluca Di Marzio and Tifo Granata in Italy. A loan was mentioned at the back end of the week. However, Torino could stretch to a fee of €16 million, apparently, which would be exactly what Leeds United spent on Lucas Perry in the first place. So Leeds could break even there, and that might help them then to add a few more quid on to try and get a different goalkeeper going into this season. Tutto Sport have reported that Leeds United and Torino are planning or have proposed talks around Lucas Perry. Perry is said to be okay with a move to Torino. He's apparently greenlit it should they decide to make this happen. A meeting is apparently due to take place tomorrow or Tuesday. Now, Andrea Russo has gotten that information locally and he's shared that with us. So again, huge thank to Andrea Russo. Anyone else who's telling you they're getting that information or they've done their research, it's coming directly from Andrea Russo, and the credit needs to go to Andrea. But the line in the Carl Darlow exit, or the athletics piece on Carl Darlow, is really interesting in this as well. Basically, they said the Leeds couldn't guarantee Carl Darlow first choice football next season because Leeds planned to purchase a goalkeeper. So we know Leeds are in the market for a goalkeeper. Clearly they are with Carl Darlow leaving, but if Darlow was still going to be there during that negotiation phase, it does look like it was a goalkeeper to compete for the first choice spot. Now, that might change now. Darlow's gone. Leeds decide to bring in one goalkeeper. Maybe it's an experienced backup to Lucas Perry and he gets a crack at it again next season. If Leeds decide, no, we want a first choice goalkeeper and we believe we can get our primary target this year, Lucas Perry goes out on loan then, or gets sold. Leeds might end up bringing in two goalkeepers then, with Alex Cairns remaining as the homegrown player and the third choice goalkeeping option. So it's still a position we didn't want to talk about this year. We didn't need another overhaul of a goalkeeping department this year. We're hoping to see the club focusing on the attacking side of the pitch. Harry Wilson's come in, so they've done that, or at least they've started with that. And there's plenty more time to run on this. Leeds said it was going to be a strategic window. They said the World Cup was going to get in the way. We shouldn't be alarmed by any of this. I did make a tongue-in-cheek joke on Twitter, which wasn't received by people, where I said Leeds seem to be interested, but no more than that, in a lot of players this summer, and at some point they're going to have to make a move. I was joking. At this moment in time, interest probably means talks are ongoing. You could see the players get done and dusted like that, and then Leeds are done. So it can happen quite quickly. A lot of the moves tend to happen when the players are back and they're starting to look for their moves, when they've been gotten back to their clubs and been told by their management teams, yeah, you're not in the plans this season, go find yourself a club, and then they start to move. And there's a lot of players at Leeds that could fall into that bracket in the next week or two, and we'll keep an eye on that. But that's where we are, folks. That's your wrap-up of the week. Let me know your thoughts on these stories, where you sit on them, your thoughts on the players, what you'd like to see Leeds be bringing in. And again, don't take it too seriously. Don't get too wrapped up in it. Plenty of time to run on this. I'm pretty calm. I think the recruitment team have got credit in the bank. Let them do their thing. And if they're trying to get more aspirational players this year, it will be tougher. If you want the quick players, you can probably get them in, but they might not be the ones to make your squad better. where we sit. That's where my head is anyway at this. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Let me know your thoughts, and I will talk to you Monday, tomorrow morning, for our Leeds United news. And we'll see as the players get ready to return for pre-season training, where we land on everything next week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and your day. I'll talk to you soon. See you later.